This is Wings on the Air.
Welcome to Wings on the Air. My name is Ann Edenfield-Sweet. I'm the Executive Director of Wings for Life International. And today we are going to hear from two experts about advice about school and how to help your children in school. And we've got with us today Marjorie Krebs, a UNM professor, working with the students that are going into student teaching and all the future teachers. Terry Wimborne from Mission Graduate, and worked with Terry for a long time on this wonderful program to get our kids to graduate. So I'm so pleased that you're both with us today to help us with this very, very important topic. So why don't you, Marjorie, we'll start with you. Give us a little of your background. How did you get into this?
Thanks. It's great to be here. I've been a teacher for 35 years, and I've taught in public schools and now at the university. And that is my main role, is to prepare our future teachers for working with children in schools.
Well, and that is so important. Yeah, and if the teachers aren't good, how are the kids going to learn? And Terry, tell us about your background and a little bit about Mission Graduate.
Okay, so I'm the Director of Collective Impact for Mission Graduate. My background is really varied. I have worked in K-12, I've worked with preschool, and I've worked with adult education programs. So working with Mission Graduate, which is the education initiative of the United Way of Central New Mexico, our focus is how do we get all of these groups plus the rest of our community working together so that we can make some systems change happen. We can start to see our graduation rates go up. We can start to see more folks enrolling in and completing some sort of post-secondary education.
Wow. Well, and education, of course, we're going to find out how important it is today. So the first question, I think, really is how do we get our parents involved and ways to support their children in school? So Marjorie, why don't we start with you?
The first thing is, Anne, you have to get your kids to school. You need to support them going. Certainly if they're ill, they need to stay home. But otherwise, whether they want to attend or not, they need to be there. And they need to know you value that. And that's by you role modeling as well, the importance of getting up and doing what you need to do, whether you want to do it or not. And also connecting with the school, being involved in the school, knowing what's going on, all of that really supports kids in school. The most important thing parents can do is to read to their children. Reading to their children, no matter what language you're reading in, whether that's the language that they're speaking at school or your home language. There's an interesting statistic that if you read 5 books a day to your child, when they enter kindergarten, they will have 1.4 million more words in their vocabulary than children who were not read to growing up. Wow. So just that acknowledgement of the importance of reading and that bonding time that happens when you read stories, the character development that happens when you read stories. Reading to your kids and valuing reading is one of the most important things you can do. Oh, wow. Great. Great advice. Terry, what would you add to that?
Well, I agree wholeheartedly with Marjorie that it's, getting your child to school. Another aspect of the work that we work on is student engagement. So once your child gets to school, are they interested in what they're learning? Are they participating in what's happening? And parents can help with that by simply talking to their children. What did you learn today? Or what would you like to be when you grow up? Let's talk about how what you learned today might help you with that. So engagement is a big part of getting students not only to school, but helping them succeed in school.
So I believe then that the way parents can partner with the teachers is going to be really important to that student's learning. So Marjorie, how do you encourage your student teachers and your teachers to engage with the teacher in support of their child? Well, as in all relationships, communication is really the key, and that needs to be initiated from both sides. So the teachers should be sending home newsletters or text messages or information about what's going on in the class. And if you're not getting that from your child's teacher, then you should ask, can you tell me what is going on this week so I can support my child at home? And then the same thing with the parents. Please communicate with your teacher about your child. If some significant event is happening at home, or then that information is helpful for the teacher to know. But certainly communicating with the teacher and, as Terry said, showing an interest in what your child is doing and asking questions like, what vocabulary word did you learn today? What questions did you ask today? What friend did you help learn something today? So
So often our kids seem to get home and they become disconnected from school, but parents can really help with that connection by just showing engagement with their kids and showing that they value what's happening at school and supporting the teacher and that learning. The most important thing, if parents have a question or seem to be uncomfortable about what is being shared about what's going on in school, they need to talk to the teacher. They should be a partnership and they need to support each other. The teacher-parent partnership is where student achievement occurs.
Great advice. Terry, what would you like to add to that?
So the other thing I would say is parents should feel free to talk to their child's teacher about resources. So when my daughter was in high school, she took calculus. I never took calculus, and helping my daughter with calculus was never going to be something that was going to happen. But I did talk to her teacher, and I said, what are the resources I can use? And she pointed me to Khan Academy, which is a free online resource for parents, and especially with things like algebra and calculus. This was a huge help. So I would say to parents, definitely talk to your child's teacher, especially if you notice that your child is having difficulty with their homework, to find out what resources are available.
Yeah, and I remember I had 4 boys, and boy, there were some classes that I didn't know all this stuff, and that's a great idea. Yeah, to ask the teachers, because they know what they're teaching their kids, and they would know where to find the extra resources. Okay, and then summer. Every summer, we've got our kids at home, and how do we engage our kids to continue with that learning over the summer? What kind of suggestions? Marjorie, what do you think?
Summer is such an important time to allow kids to investigate the things they're really interested in. Certainly reading is key over the summer, and also connecting with the library. Go to the library. Most libraries have reading competitions or, book clubs and things that students can participate in. So there's all kinds of camps and opportunities for students to be engaged. You just don't want your kids sitting around on the couch watching TV or playing video games all day. That is not where their brains are going to be stimulated. And so making summer a time where they can really investigate things that are interesting to them. Do some of those science experiments, like, cut celery off at the edges and put them in food coloring and watch, how the plant turns orange and blue. Observe insects outside. What bug is this? Let's find out. Where do they live? What do they eat? It's really time to get to explore the world around us that a lot of times kids in school don't get to get outside as much. The other thing I would say is make sure they do some physical activity. Take the dog for a walk, do some jump rope or some jumping jacks, have a family competition. Get everybody up and moving so that, we don't just sit inside and let the summer go by without taking advantage of the opportunities. For older kids, it's important to start thinking about what careers they might be interested in. They're not in school, so they should be able to shadow or have an internship with someone. Let's say your child's interested in being a veterinarian. Contact your own vet and say, can my daughter come spend a day with you, just to do some career exploration. People love to have students in their workplaces to learn about the world of work. And if you have older kids, they should have jobs. And whether that's at home or outside the home, there should be some things that they're required to do. And a schedule is also helpful. Nobody's going to be in bed past 8:30. We're all up, and here's the 3 things that you need to do today. Just keep people moving and active and engaged is really going to help your summer be a lot of fun with your family.
Oh, I love all the ideas. Great. Terry?
I agree wholeheartedly with it. The summer activity is important. I would say gardening is a great activity to get your child interested in, because there's learning, but there's also exercise involved. They're welcome to come to my house and help me move gravel if they want to. But I will also say that this is another way to connect with your child's teacher. Before the end of the school year, talk to your child's teacher about where you can find resources to involve your child in activities throughout the summer. And again, the teacher will definitely mention the library. And I would say sometimes some chores that we do are chores you don't think about that maybe your child would be interested in. You have to tune up your lawnmower if you own one. Have your child help you with that. Or change the oil in your car. If you're doing any of those kinds of things, on cleaning the lint trap out of the dryer, explain to your child why you're doing that. Mm-hmm. These are just really mini learning lessons, but they're a way to get your child engaged also in those chores around the house, if that's what they're doing.
If I could add to that, take your kids to the grocery store. Mm-hmm. So often we're ordering groceries online, and kids don't know how to shop anymore, how to pick out good fruits. Let's look at the coupons. It's a great math activity.
Yep.
How much money are we going to save by buying this item versus this? Look at how many cookies are in this package. Is this really cheaper because it's half the cookies that are in this other package? Those are great math activities, but don't be afraid to take your kids to the grocery store. Yeah, it'll take you another 20 minutes and you'll come home with an extra box of cereal, but it is well worth it to have those experiences with your kids.
Well, and the coupons, because of course I didn't have any money when my kids were growing up. And when they could, I'd say, we've got X amount of dollars, let's see how we could spend it. And I'll tell you what, they were so good at that. And yard sales, my gosh, they were just masters at negotiations. Instead of $1, I'll pay 50 cents for that. And talk about good learning skills that now my boys are using later in life. Oh, I love all this. Now, you know, at Wings, we work with families of prisoners. And I know my first husband was in prison. I had 4 boys. There were some teachers that we told that their dad was his dad was in prison, and other teachers we did not. What kind of advice would each of you have for those situations? And for me, it related to how I felt about that relationship. Where we're going into a brand new school, were they going to be judged now just without getting to know this child? So it was a very difficult decision, and I've written a book about this, and I talk about it, but I'd like to hear from your perspective, because you're at the other side of education, and I was the parent, and it's very, when it's a personal thing, it's very difficult. So share with our listeners, if you had a loved one incarcerated, how would you talk to the teachers? And what as a teacher, what would you like? Marjorie, we'll start with you because you work with the teachers, and then we'll get to the bigger, broader scope, Terry, with you.
It's so important to do just what you said, which is think about how well do I know this teacher and what does my child want? And that depends on how old they are. If your child is middle school or above, and they are able to handle things well and do not want their teachers or peers to know, then I believe initially you need to respect that. Now, if behavior issues start happening, if grades start slipping because of what's happening at home, then I think it's time for the parent to say, look, we need to go in and talk to the school because they need to know you're going through a stressful situation. With younger children, mainly they're not going to be able to communicate their feelings, but they might begin to act out. And the teacher needs to have another layer of understanding about where this might be coming from other than they're not listening. You know, it's that there's more going on at home. And I recommend certainly for parents of younger children, talk to those teachers. You may not have to, if you don't want to say there's a parent in prison, just say we are separated at the time. You don't have to say where they are.
That's what I said sometimes, absolutely.
Yes,
yeah.
Because, you know, once you know the teacher, the details may come more into play, but just the fact that a parent and child are separated will help the teacher have a little better understanding of why there might be some acting out or some unusual questions coming, or maybe some friends know and they're bringing it up. They'll just be able to negotiate the entire classroom community with more information that they have, but you as the parent are the one who knows what's best for your child. So watch their behaviors, listen to their feelings, and know when you need to intervene at school.
Oh, wonderful. Well, maybe I did do the right things.
I would say you did, absolutely.
But Terry, now in the bigger, broader scope, because you're working with school systems more than, of course, individual classrooms too, what would you add to that?
I would only add that we're trying to work on schools becoming teams. You know, the whole school is a team. So if it's at all possible, maybe someone at the school is aware of even if you're not willing to even say that, you know, you're separated, what about the school nurse or a counselor, possibly the principal, just so someone is aware that there are issues happening within the family. And also that person be aware that you don't know the teacher well enough at this time to be able to share that information so that they're aware of why the teacher doesn't know this. It might be helpful, but again, it's entirely up to the parent when they feel comfortable. But that's one of the things we're working on is how is your school working as a team?
Oh, that's really good to know. And incarceration is so rampant. There's one study that says at least one child out of every 10 in an American classroom has a parent in prison or jail currently. The numbers are staggering. So this is not anything unique, but when you're the one involved, you feel like you're the only one. So it's a difficult situation. Well, I'd like to talk a little bit more about some definitions here and more details now, not so generic, because I'd like to talk about chronic absenteeism. First of all, let's define what that is. So I don't know, Terry, would you like to start with that one?
Sure. Chronic absenteeism is when children are out 10% of the school year or more for any reason. So that includes excused absences. A lot of times parents don't realize that when their child is out because they say they have a tummy ache, they're actually missing instruction time. And that instruction time cannot be made up easily as it wouldn't be for a child that was out for an unexcused absence. So there are people within the country. Attendance Works is a national organization that's working to help educate educators and the rest of the country on the importance of children being in school all the time. Yes, when they're ill, they should be out, and there are ways to find out when should my child be kept home and when should I let them go to school. Oftentimes what we found is that I have a tummy ache is child speak for I don't feel like going to school. Mm-hmm. So asking a few more questions of the child or checking, do they have a temperature? Do they have diarrhea? Have they thrown up? If none of these are the case, it may be okay to send that child to school because that instruction time is so valuable. So chronic absenteeism is just that. 10% of the school year, by the way, is missing 2 days a month generally or more.
2 days
So 2 days a month.
Wow.
And your child, studies are showing they will start to fall behind at that point.
And going to Disneyland, that also adds.
Yes.
Yeah, working with you, I've learned that boy, we're going to go off to Disneyland. No, you're missing school. That is important time that's being lost.
Well, and parents say, well, it's just kindergarten. Or it's just preschool, it's okay for them to miss. What they're not realizing is that that child is still missing instruction, but you're also setting a precedent. You're saying to your child, it's okay to be out if you want to have a good time or have some fun or go on vacation. That's okay. And you don't want children to have that lesson. You want children to understand that school is super important.
And Marjorie, I'm sure that's a huge impact on the teachers then if somebody's not there. So how does that impact the classroom and a teacher from your perspective?
Absolutely. Just trying to catch students up who miss a day or two takes time away from all the other learning that should be happening in the classroom. That's again where communication with parents is so important, so that the parents can let the teacher know if a child is ill, what can I do to support my child at home so that when they come back, they're not trying to catch up. But it does have a very dramatic impact. And this also includes doctor's appointments, dentists, orthodontists. So often we think, oh, it's just an hour. Well, if your appointment is Thursday once a month at 2, you're always missing the same content. And that can really have an impact. So many doctor's offices and dentist offices are beginning to be open on weekends and evenings. And you as a parent can say, no, I need an appointment after 2:30. And set that precedent with your health physician so that they can help keep your kids in school as well.
Oh, yeah. Those are things that you don't typically think about, but you're right. Every Thursday, once a month, my gosh, that's one of the 2 days that you're missing. Yeah. And missing the same lesson or topic. Now, we talk about chronic absenteeism and truancy. Is there a difference? So, Terry, okay, tell us about the difference and what that means.
So truancy, and our state law in New Mexico up until recently focused only on truancy. Truancy is a number of unexcused absences. So if your child has up to 10 days of unexcused absences, after that 10th day, the school can take punitive actions. And in some cases, it included school districts calling the police on the parents because their child was out unexcused. But what wasn't happening in this state was anyone asking the parent, why is your child out? Why are they not coming to school? Why is no one calling them in? And so that is part of what happened when we helped to change the law in New Mexico.
Okay, so there's a new law.
There is.
So why don't you tell us about the new law? And this is, tell us about the New Mexico law and then how it relates nationally, too.
Okay. So the New Mexico law is called the Attendance for Success Act. And the Attendance for Success Act was written specifically to tell schools we can no longer simply disenroll children who are out with unexcused absences, and we can no longer simply say to the parent, you're a bad parent, your child has been out, this is bad. What we're telling schools now is you actually have to be a partner with the parents. We want schools to work together with parents. What are the barriers? What's keeping you from getting your child to school? What is it about school that makes your child not want to come? Schools need to be asking these questions. And unfortunately, right now, there's not an enormous amount of money attached to making these changes, but we're hoping that will happen, that schools will start to see more resources available to them. But in the meantime, we're asking schools, just look at your data, look at how many children are out for any reason and for how much, and then start to have conversations with parents. This new law does require schools to call parents if within 1 month their child is out only once. They may be giving parents a call, just saying, hey, we're just calling to check up and make sure everything's okay. We don't want parents to feel defensive about it. We want them to understand that we're trying to get schools to be partners. Community partners.
Community partners, yes.
Yes.
And the teachers now, of course, this is the job now of the teacher. So how does this whole truancy and chronic absenteeism thing impact teachers, Marjorie?
Well, it puts teachers on the defensive and in some sort of enforcement role instead of being a support and a provider of help for the student. So it's important that the teacher is seen as somebody who is there to help your child succeed and not be initiating punitive experiences for families. This was in the years before cell phones, but there was a parent whose family was late. The kids were late every day. Finally, somebody from the school said, "Why is your kid late all the time?" And they said, "Well, we don't have an alarm clock."
Oh.
And so it was as simple as providing an alarm clock to the family so they could get up on time. Sometimes the solutions are so simple, we just have to ask.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. I mean, you don't have an alarm clock, you might not wake up.
Right.
Yeah.
Some of the schools are having walking school buses now, where parents and teachers, especially in neighborhoods with a lot of street crossings where it's not safe for children to cross the street. Sometimes parents were caring for an elderly parent at home. They couldn't walk the child to school. So teachers and parents are volunteering now. They'll gather in a neighborhood and walk the group, the walking school bus, then walks together to school. And that's helping with attendance as well. So we can be creative about some of these issues and not blame the parent and the family. We need, as Terry has said, to problem solve together, because everyone wants the best for their child.
That's right.
Everyone wants their child to have a good education, and we can bring together the resources to make that happen for every child.
Yeah, sometimes it's just asking a particular question of the family. We had a young couple. They were very young. They had 2 young boys who were getting to school late every day. They didn't realize they went to bed at midnight every night. So they thought 10 o'clock was an okay time for their boys to go to bed. No one said differently. And no one had ever talked to them about it. The school said, hey, let's have a conversation. What time do you boys go to bed? And they were able to have a very friendly, positive conversation. And that's the kind of partnership that we're looking for.
And I think it's so important that it's not the mean old teacher, it's not the bad old school system, that we are a team. And you are right. Every parent wants the best for their children. Absolutely. So what tips do you have? Sometimes it is hard to get those kids up, and the alarm was set and they turned it off. But what tips do you have for parents when the kids don't want to go to school? So Marjorie, we'll start with you.
Well, I think you have to look at why. Why is a child not looking forward to being with their friends and getting up and going to a place that's fun to spend the day? So sometimes children do have social anxiety, and there are issues going on. Sometimes there may be bullying going on in the classroom, that a child is afraid to do something, or they have an assignment due that they haven't done. So it's important to get at the root cause of why is this an issue to begin with. But I also believe in starting out with positive reinforcement. You know what? If you are up and ready to go for 3 days, then after school, we're going to, go get some ice cream, or whatever it is that kid is motivated with. And then they'll realize that it is okay to get up and go to school, and you wean off of that reward. But I do believe to change behavior, sometimes for parents, you do need to find some of the things that those kids want and make that a goal. It's not always punitive. You're not getting up, so here's what you don't get to do. Here's when you do what you're supposed to do. Here's the things that get to happen for you. But I do believe it's getting at why does a child not want to go to school? They should be enjoying school and should be a positive place to be. So there's something going on that they need to investigate.
Oh, very good. Terry, anything you want to add to that?
So I would say sometimes it's consistency. So I've heard from a lot of high school students that, oh, they're so tired, getting up in the morning, and you ask them why, and they're like, well, we were, texting and chatting with my friends until 1 in the morning. I know families that have set certain precedents. All cell phones have to go into the charger at 9 o'clock at night, period. Or tablets get turned off and computers get turned off, and we have an hour of reading or half an hour of reading with high school students. With younger children, it would be earlier. But setting those habits early so that the kids are not too tired to get up in the morning, and having it be consistently across the board without exceptions is going to make a huge difference, I think.
More good advice. Wow. Oh, this is wonderful. Now, if somebody says, boy, all this sounds really good, but I need extra help, what about resources? What kind of suggestions might you have? Marjorie, we'll start with you.
Well, at the school, certainly the school counselor and the school nurse and the principal can help give ideas. But there are a lot of websites for parents. There's a lot of blogs for parents, depending on your interest area, and where you can share questions that you have and get advice from all kinds of people. So look online, but then also talk to the people at your school and talk to your friends. Don't be afraid to talk to your friends about the issues your kids are having and get some advice from them. And sometimes your own parents might have a suggestion. Mom, did this ever happen with me? What did you all do?
Good idea.
And parents just need support in raising our kids. It's not an easy job.
Terry, any last minute thoughts on that one?
I would just say the only other thing I would offer up is United Way has a line called 211. And this is a resource line if you are having any difficulties at all. If your inability to pay your rent or to get enough food is causing difficulties getting your child to school, then 211 may be able to help. They can refer you to lots of organizations out there.
Oh, wonderful. And other communities, I'm sure they have similar kinds of things. Wow, I knew this was going to be so fantastic. Thank you so much. I hope all of you that have been listening have learned all kinds of things to help your kids, to support them, to work with the teachers, to work with the schools. Education is so vitally important. And we want to thank Bob Moore with Rainstar Capital Group. He's the sponsor, and his organization is the sponsor of Wings on the Air. You could call Bob at 505-331-4246. Again, that's Bob Moore, Rainstar Capital Group, 505-331-4246. Thanks so much for joining us today on Wings on the Air.
Wings on the Air is sponsored by Rainstar Capital Group.